Boy, Xbox just can't cut a break, can they? Well, let's see what they're up to now.
Unless you live under a rock when it comes to gaming, you're likely aware of how recently Microsoft has made the move to announce massive increases in prices to Xbox Game Pass. And that price increase and
Yeah.
what it entails has led to what can only be described as a mass exodus of players that are canceling their subscription.
To be fair, I think $30 for Game Pass Ultimate is fucking ludicrous. The amount of time it would take you to get any use out of Game Pass is way more than a month, because most people that have Game Pass for, what its service is, which is playing games for free, well, essentially for free, most people, it takes them about what, maybe 2 weeks, given, school or a job, take you about a week, 2 weeks to play a game. So maybe in the course of a month, you might get 3, maybe 4 games a month out of that. That's if you're even playing, multiple games on it. You might just be playing one game. And if you're using Game Pass to play just one game, you're essentially going to end up spending more on the Game Pass than you would the actual game if you were to buy it. Versus something like Netflix, where it's, short bursts of content. And, in a matter of a week, you could watch an entire fucking TV series plus a couple movies. By the end of the month, you would have watched several TV series, several seasons, several movies. Not to mention, if you have kids, your kids are also watching stuff. Other people in your household are watching stuff on it too. That adds up. The overall value that you get out of something like Netflix is totally different than what you get out of something like Game Pass. Trying to be the Netflix of video games is, fine in concept, but when you make the price point so freaking huge that within 2 months you could have just bought a full priced game and you've only played 2 or 3 games out of it, it's not worth it. Really not anymore.
As Microsoft is now left to pick up the pieces, as seen here from TechRadar.com. The rate in which people were canceling their Game Pass actually crashed their service, which is definitely not a good thing. But besides the Xbox Game Pass stuff, there's now a new rumor from a very reliable source that Xbox hardware is officially dead and gone forever, and no, I'm not kidding. So there's a leaker named Sneaker SO.
Yeah, that's called cloud gaming. We've all known for a while that Xbox is trying, it wants very much to push cloud gaming, plain and simple. They've been building towards it. And that's why they push the Game Pass stuff so fucking heavily. Like, I've seen it coming for a long time, and they've been trying to get it off the ground.
Who has been probably the most reliable source of leaks when it comes to Xbox services since really forever. This particular leaker gets referenced by all the major gaming websites because every single time Sneaker SO says anything about Xbox, that's pretty much what ends up getting announced. So with their pretty, amazing reputation in terms of always being on the money, this then leads us to this latest rumor, also from Sneaker, where they are saying that Xbox hardware is officially done. What does that even mean? Well, it means Microsoft is no longer, apparently, according to them, going to make any more consoles, upgrades, or updates to their current consoles. The Xbox brand physically dies with the Xbox Series X and S. That's what they're being said, as it reads here. Without going into too much detail, not long.
And I know that the Stadia was trying to do the same thing. I think it was too soon for something like that. Plus it was it was being done through Google, and it was their first foray into the video game market. And so I think if anybody has a shot of doing something like this, I think it would be Xbox/Microsoft, just because they're a more well-known name and they have a lot of fanboys. So I think they might be able to pull it off given the time that it is. I think Google Stadia it came out way too soon, way before its time. So we'll see.
After the last round of layoffs, next one should be coming in Q1 2026, by the way, and it's going to be just as massive as the last one. Some rumblings out of Xbox coming out and that were a little hard to believe. They continue. The ramifications of the Call of Duty Game Pass gambit not working out were just starting to get properly measured. But the thing that really stuck...
Yeah, I think I've seen an article talking about a little bit of that, how even Call of Duty, like even like console sales for Call of Duty's still getting more sales on PlayStation than on Xbox. Why? Well, put simply, if you purchase it on Xbox or if you go through Game Pass, they're not going to play it on Xbox. Most people that get Game Pass stuff, as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong. So if I am wrong, let me know. But most people that, like a good majority of people that have Game Pass, are just playing their games on PC, not so much on Xbox.
Out to me was that suddenly really concrete plans for actual Microsoft Xbox hardware went from being definitive to up in the air, which was really startling given that this thing was meant to be out relatively soon. It was one of those situations where, despite folks being told, hey, we want to pull the trigger on this in 2026, the steps you would need to take in the lead up to delivering a new console generation weren't being met. Lots of things that were sure things started getting pushed. The Costco retailer pulling Xbox, and apparently they are one of many that we'll learn about soon, told me all I needed to know. He even continues further. To sum it up, the future of Xbox is software publishing with a significantly honed-in focus on profitable IPs. Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Minecraft, Candy Crush, Forza Horizon, etc., cloud gaming being the home of the Xbox platform. Transitioning Game Pass into basically becoming the point of entry subscription for cloud access, which will continue to drive its price tag higher, by the way. They aren't done there just yet either, and releasing their software on any device that has a marketplace and users willing to buy their titles. Maybe some original equipment manufacturer thing will take up the Xbox name, but given what is clearly a collapse in favorable mindshare and faith in said brand, I'm not even sure a third-party original equipment manufacturer is going to want to have an Xbox console by the time Microsoft is done with their reorienting of the division. Of course,
now I think part of this decision, now I could be wrong, but I think one reasoning for them trying to push cloud gaming so much is the fact that for as long as Xbox has been around, while people, praise the Xbox 360, and while yes, it was a good console, for the most part, it was only a good console because it had Halo and Gears of War. That's pretty much it. Outside of that, people didn't talk about Xbox. Anything you can get on Xbox, you can get on other consoles. Now, while they might have, won that side of the argument when it comes to the actual games or the software, hardware wise, Sony's been beating them for as long as they've been around. PS2, great fucking console, great hardware. PS3 had really good hardware, not that great of software. The games on PS3 just weren't really there as far as like being able to beat Xbox in that division. And then PS4 obliterated Xbox, all because of their stupid DRM policies, and then Sony basically laughing in their face with the whole, this is how you trade your games, which was smart on Sony's part. I will say that. You see your competition do something really stupid that people hate on, you better run with it and run fast. But yes, Sony's been whooping them for a long time as far as the hardware and the overall console side of things. Sadly, Microsoft might be they've been buying up companies to try to beef up that software, or beef up their games. But to be fair, I just don't really see what Xbox really has to offer as far as why should you buy this one over the other one. And me personally, I don't play consoles at all. Don't care. I just see signs and I see things that happen. I'm like an outside perspective, so take that for what you will.
Of course, some websites are trying to combat this rumor from Sneaker SL, but since they've been correct on pretty much most things they've reported on, this is likely going to be the case. I've gotten a lot of flack online for telling people that Xbox is a dead console walking for years now, and every year
It's very true. And because for the longest time, Xbox has only been Gears of War and Halo, and Gears of War and Halo have been total fucking ass, or they just don't exist for so many years. How long has it been since you got a good Gears of War game? What, my opinion, Gears of War 2? Say what you want, I don't care. But they haven't had it for a long time.
Indicated that it was a great decision to leave that platform behind in 2013 like I did and never look back. I mean, the fact of the matter is Xbox has ruined a lot of franchises. They've destroyed ecosystems, and they are now poised to just ruin their own customers' trust with what they're doing now. And if you enjoy the content, consider liking the video, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thank you very much. And here's the updated Xbox prices and what comes included. As you can see here, they have Essential, Premium, and Ultimate. The Premium tier, which is $15 USD a month, has a small asterisk on its first point there saying that you'll get Xbox published games within a year of launch, not at release. And that second tier is the most popular one, by the way. But as you can also see here at the bottom of that same infographic, that small asterisk in Premium excludes Call of Duty titles from that reward tier. So you actually need to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate at $30 USD per month to gain access to those Call of Duty titles and more. They do try to sweeten the deal by adding EA Play or Ubisoft Classics, but a reminder, this is not to give you access to, say, Assassin's Creed Shadows or anything like that. No, Ubisoft Classics are games like Assassin's Creed 2 or Revelations, games that you can buy right now for dirt cheap practically anywhere. So essentially, Microsoft is trying to swindle their users to upgrade to Ultimate by giving them very cheap games that people likely already own as incentives. And
because Game Pass Ultimate is where the cloud gaming resides. And that's what they really want to push people into. Because if you can if you can back them into the corner, and then while they're backed into that corner, be like, here's cloud gaming. It's all yours. Go have fun. Thank you for your time. That's what they're trying to do.
And paywalling the, Call of Duty titles like Black Ops 7 behind that ultimate price point. And since Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard now, the main reason most people subscribe to Game Pass is to play the latest Call of Duty titles for cheaper. But technically, Microsoft makes those users now pay more money in the long run to play those games anyways. Because if you think about it, after 3 months of Ultimate, if you just play Call of Duty Black Ops 7, you effectively just paid the full price of the game already just to play it on Game Pass. And if you want to continue
exactly what I said earlier. Yes.
Playing it, which you likely will if you're an Ultimate subscriber, you're actually being forced to pay roughly 4 times the price of Call of Duty's latest entry to play it for the rest of the year until the next one. So if all you play is Call of Duty and use Game Pass for it.
And that's not counting the amount of money you're probably going to spend in microtransactions. If you're really going to only play Call of Duty with Game Pass, you're probably going to be invested in it so heavily that you will spend money on microtransactions. So the amount of money that you technically funnel into that one game, you could have bought several other games.
It's technically a bad buy. You would actually save more money simply by buying the game yourself, and you would have access to it whenever instead of, having to pay monthly in order to play it. So why the massive increase in Game Pass and paywall in Call of Duty specifically behind the highest tier, you may be wondering. Well, it's exactly what I theorized well over a year ago in other videos that I also made about Xbox. That Call of Duty being involved with Game Pass as a game would lead to catastrophic long-term damages and actually just cause the entire system to be crushed under its own weight due to how many sales would be lost by people not buying Call of Duty on Xbox. But how much money did they lose, I hear you say? Well, as seen here from PC Gamer, Microsoft lost around $300 million already by putting Black Ops 6 last year on Game Pass. And unsurprisingly, the majority of copies sold were on PlayStation because, PlayStation users are conditioned to buy their games like always, whereas Xbox users are not due to Game Pass. But in that same PC Gamer article, they talk about how much money Microsoft would have to theoretically gain via these new Game Pass subscriptions to make up for the lack of actual sales of Black Ops 6, which was the first new Call of Duty game released on Game Pass day 1, to make up for it. And roughly speaking, Microsoft needed about 15 million new subscribers in one single month to make up for the loss of sales of not having Black Ops 6 being bought by Xbox.
Yes, and there you go. It's showing that subscription-based models for games is nothing but a loss leader. That's all this is. It is a loss leader to funnel people into other things. And yes, they're losing a ton of money putting Call of Duty on that, but it's funneling people into other things, like the cloud gaming service. That's what this is doing.
Xbox users in order to have a similar revenue stream that they're used to. Obviously, that number in subscribers is impossible to reach.
Now, to be fair, I think using it as a loss leader is fucking retarded because that's a huge loss leader. Like, at this point, I don't understand why they even still do it. I'll be frank. It's their company, not mine. So
considering that Xbox Game Pass since its inception is sitting roughly at 34 million subscribers in total, but that number was before this mass exodus, so who knows how many millions they lost due to all of this now. Case in point, adding Call of Duty.
I don't think they lost near as many as people think they have, because there's too many casual dad gamers out there that subscribe to it, whether, for PC or on their actual console, or, people that just have kids that they just pay the subscription for it for their kids, and that's it. I don't think it's that many. I really don't.
Game Pass has been a catastrophic failure like I theorized, and now Microsoft is pretty much screwed because they believed that Call of Duty would save Game Pass, but again, it's losing them hundreds of millions of dollars instead. And while Black Ops 6 did lead to the single biggest amount of new Game Pass subscribers in a single day, as seen here from IGN, when Black Ops 6 launched originally, it wasn't enough anyways. It just kind of shows that mega big blockbuster games are simply not sustainable within a subscription model alone, to the surprise of absolutely no one. And it's the same reason why Sony said years ago that they would never release the next God of War or Horizon, for example, on PS Plus day one, because it would simply be a massive loss in sales and profits for the company if they did something like that.
Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Like, you put something on a subscription model that is, $60, $70 release day one, you're losing sales because people are going to go for the cheaper option 100% of the time. So yeah, I think while people might shit on Sony for doing that or for making that decision, that's the smart decision to make as a company. Why would you want to shoot yourself in the foot?
But due to Microsoft pushing this concept for so long that Game Pass is really all you need for them, it is no wonder why so many of their core franchises have just ended up becoming shadows of themselves, because there's no incentive to deliver amazing new games if profits technically don't matter to Microsoft. The easiest example is PlayStation, Nintendo, and Steam. They are like the kids that are brought up by their parents with really no safety nets, and they're being told that they need to do well in life in order to survive. And the Xbox is like that one other kid who had a very sheltered life where mommy and daddy took care of their every whim. And the Xbox kid in this situation doesn't really need to achieve greatness or push themselves to do better in life, because their parents will just save them no matter how poorly they do, and that's what's happening here. So the added rumor of Xbox hardware just being ceased in terms of development, it really wouldn't surprise me. Because at this point, if all their games are on every other platform, why bother buying an Xbox then? There's zero incentive, since it's all going to be playable on PlayStation, Steam, or Switch anyways. You're effectively just limiting your own options game-wise by simply staying on Xbox is really what's happening, and things are looking grim when even IGN's most stalwart defenders of the Xbox brand have to drop articles recently like this one titled, "This Xbox generation will be remembered for one thing, greed." Yeah, it's never been more over than it has right now when it comes to Xbox, pretty much. There's no point in
raising prices on pretty much everything, starting to push $80 games, just like the Switch. And to be fair, I think $80 is just ridiculous. No game is worth $80, really. I'll be honest. And now the Game Pass price hike. Not to mention the console price increase. So, yes, they're showing their greed pretty hard right now. Now, Sony did raise the price of their PlayStation as well. It's like the lesser of two evils, I guess.
Investing in their platform unless you genuinely want to be fed a rotating list of games that you may not care for, as the price points of that service inevitably just increase year over year. Game Pass has already increased over 50% in price since it first came out, and you gotta be stupid in the brain if you don't think Microsoft won't just continue to keep raising that price, especially since Black Ops 7, the next Call of Duty, is going to also be on Game Pass day one. Ultimate, that is. Remember, you don't get access if you have premium. It's just what a mess. But the thing is that the writing has been on the wall for a while now, despite people trying to ignore it. You had articles like this from Video Games Chronicle in 2024 titled, "Phil Spencer, long cast as Xbox's savior, may be remembered as the man who killed it." And they're right, because everything that Phil Spencer has promised the Xbox community has not worked out at all. It's a wonder that someone like Phil is still even in charge after having destroyed the entire ecosystem the way that he has. As VGC writes here, Spencer lamented that the the game industry simply isn't growing enough, explaining that all of Microsoft's recent moves, the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, the decision to take Xbox exclusives to PS5 and/or Switch, the layoffs have been designed to counter this unavoidable, irrefutable truth. They continue by quoting Phil Spencer, who said this: "Everybody else's customer is your success state. You can't succeed unless you draw in customers from other publishers and other platforms. And because you're not finding new customers with the games that you're building, everybody's kind of fighting over the same sized pie." Phil then continues, "When you have an industry that is projected to be smaller next year in terms of players and dollars, and you get a lot of publicly traded companies that are in the industry that have to show their investors growth, because why else does somebody own a share of someone's stock if it's not going to grow? The side of the business that then gets scrutinized is the cost side, because if you're not going to grow the revenue side, then the cost side becomes challenged." This is kind of laughable, honestly, to hear it coming from Phil Spencer of all people, because he seems to be answering questions not as the head of Xbox, but instead as a rank and file employee, which he isn't. You see, Phil Spencer has had the power to change the game industry for the better.
I think what he's trying to do is be that likable uncle that just, takes you out, gets you candy and fills you up with sweets and sugars and then sends you back home and be like, and then you realize just how bad you have it at home, where mom and dad make you eat veggies and, go to bed on time. And I think that's kind of the mentality. Like, that's the best way I can think to rationalize the line of thinking, and trying not to push exclusivity, because there's a lot of people that scrutinize PlayStation for its exclusive titles, and so I think he's trying to capitalize on that the way Sony capitalized on their DRM policies. That's really the only thing I can think of logically that why somebody would want to take Xbox exclusives and then put them on PlayStation. You can come up with a better theory, you let me know. That's just off the top of my head.
Part of many years already. He was given full reign to transform Xbox into a viable platform and make it better for the industry. Instead, all he's done, from having multiple SKUs of the same console released at the same time, which has been a nightmare to develop for, because the Series S is dramatically weaker than other consoles, yet can play the same games, just not as well. Not to mention Phil spearheading the concept of Game Pass originally, which has clearly ruined modern gaming and led to all sorts of layoffs and price hikes and very more, as we all know. And that doesn't even begin to factor in that Phil Spencer was instrumental in causing Microsoft to go on a mass acquiring spree, because Microsoft as themselves would not have enough people to actually fill up Game Pass with the games that they needed if they didn't just own more studios. So Phil,
I will say, I think trying to go out and buy out a bunch of these old studios or publishers, I think that was a waste of money, because if all you're trying to do is buy up these publishers and these companies to be able to put them into Game Pass, that's not going to make up the amount of money that you spent trying to buy out these companies. And eventually, I think that Microsoft is going to have to give them up, and somebody else will have to buy them, or they go back to being independent or being their own entity again. And I think eventually Xbox might just fall through, because I don't think people are going to be down with cloud gaming. I really don't, because there's too many questions and too many red flags that comes along with it. It's good in theory, but I don't know that you're going to get enough people on board for it to be viable. And I eventually think that, yes, these companies that they bought out are going to go back into the market.
Went on a spending spree, bought Activision Blizzard and many other people. And what we have gotten from all of that? Subpar products, bad sequels, sometimes just broken games or remasters that don't work for years, like the Master Chief Collection. And beyond all of this, he has also allowed ideology to run rampant through the studios Microsoft owns, ruining places like Obsidian and more, because he wants to be politically correct, when in reality he's just being passive and allowing his studios and more to be ran into the ground over activism and then some. So all of this combines into making Xbox genuinely one of the worst places to play games these days, despite Phil Spencer's entire job being to, I don't know, make Xbox the best place to play games, which he absolutely has not done a good job of it at all. Things have only gotten more expensive, Call of Duty is more slop than ever, and studios across the board owned by Microsoft are releasing subpar products like Avowed and more. They even tried to make their slop games the same price as Nintendo's first-party games, if you remember, but the lack of pre-orders and purchases were so bad that Microsoft had to pivot back to the original standard pricing, because nobody was willing to pay $80 American for a copy of Avowed, of all things. But I think...
And we've seen the same thing with Outer Worlds. They tried to sneak that in there. People did not like that. And so they bumped it back down. Now, do I still think that Outer Worlds is worth $70? Hell no. I think it's more like a $50 game. I will be perfectly honest. I think that if you're going to make games like that, I think that it's hard for me to get on board with a $60 game anymore, unless it is like has like a ridiculous amount of like hours that you can invest into it and it's worth the price tag as far as what you can get out of it. But as far as Call of Duty games, I'm sorry, but if you're going to pump one out every single year, you shouldn't be expected to, shell out $80 every year for a Call of Duty game that's basically just reskinned and got another number attached to it. That's where I stand with that.
I think it's here what VGC says in their article again from a year ago that has been proven right now more than ever, which says, if there's one lesson we can take from the Spencer era, it's that you can enact all the disruptive changes you like, but you cannot disprove this industry's oldest truth: great games sell consoles. And that's really the ultimate truth.
Yes.
Xbox can buy up.
For years, PlayStation and Xbox have been trying to recreate the PS2 golden era of great consoles. And there's a reason why PS2 sold so well, why it was and still is considered one of the best consoles of all time, because of the games. It had amazing games. It had a huge library of games. It had a really great like bangers. It had everything it needed. It had tons of great games. And to be fair, that was before there was a lot of publisher oversight in these games. You go back and you look at a lot of those games from that era, you're going to see a lot of like really not woke stuff in a lot of games. Big boobs, racism, sexism, the whole 9 yards. It's all there. And that's why people loved it, because it was authentic, it was real, and they were just good games in general. That's what made that console so good. And that's why they can't recreate it now.
Anything they want. It still won't fix anything if the games being made are not of a quality that people are willing to play or buy at full price. And speaking of not pricing things correctly, the ROG Xbox Ally, which is not the flashiest name for a handheld console, is Xbox's answer to having their own Steam Deck-like device for Xbox players. So now you can play your Xbox Game Pass games on the go, except as IGN reports here, as you can see, the Ally is about $1,000 American at release, which I'm sure if we process that to any other currency, it's kind of a nightmare how much this thing really costs. Yes, the Ally costs more than a PS5 Pro somehow. It also apparently has a worse battery life compared to the Steam Deck, but in terms of raw power, it is stronger than a Steam Deck. But that being said, you're paying a very...
I'm sorry, but you want me to pay $1,000 for a handheld when for maybe a couple $100 more, I can get PC. No, thank you. Nope. And it's going to be probably 5 times more powerful than that thing. Guarantee it. You can suck all of my nut.
Free premium price point for something that is effectively useless unless you also pay $30 USD a month for Game Pass, I guess, to play things on it. Or you could buy games, but seeing as how most Xbox players just use Game Pass anyways, that is likely how it is intended to be used. Again, I don't know who this device really is for, to be honest, why anyone would really buy it in the...
It's for a niche of a niche of a niche. The amount of people that are going to have the kind of money to shell out for that kind of stuff is going to be A, your very wealthy people that can actually afford something like that, and B, for true Xbox fanboys, because why would you want to own something that can realistically only be used to play Xbox games when you can go and buy a Steam Deck right now where you can play pretty much anything, because you can just run emulators on the damn thing. Because that's what I mostly see people using. I see a lot of people that just have emulators on their Steam Decks. Like, it's just crazy. Like, why? It's only there to service diehard Xbox fanboys. That's it.
First place, the only people buying it are going to be diehard fans of Xbox, which just seems to be fewer
Vindication.
and fewer all the time, and I guess the YouTubers and websites who will just review these sorts of devices. But with the Nintendo Switch 2 being like half the price of this thing alone, I would wager that most people, despite Nintendo being also a pretty evil company these days, will just buy that over the Ally anyways. Again, it just keeps happening. Like, who is any of this for when it comes to Xbox? Unless you're the kind of gamer who is cheap because you don't want to buy games at release, but want to be given titles you may or may not like via a subscription service, but you also can't be cheap if you want the Ally because it's $1,000 plus tax American to play those games on, who is this all for? You could just buy a PS5 Pro and buy some games for less than the Ally right now alone. It's just a very bizarre business structure. And every day I just feel validated that I walked away from Xbox all those years ago because none of this is getting any better. And if Sneeko SO is right in their rumors, like they usually are apparently, there won't even be another Xbox console anyways. As if this wasn't bad enough, don't worry, you can get a new version of Game Pass soon which will be free to play. That sounds pretty great, right? You just need to sit through ads every now and then to play your games, which honestly sounds pretty dystopian. You're probably thinking though, oh, like a minute ad, and then I get to play Call of Duty at release for free. That's
No, you get Twitch ads. You get them good old-fashioned Amazon-style ads, where you have to sit through 20 minutes worth of ads for 30 minutes of gameplay. Sounds great, doesn't it?
not so bad, right? I mean, you wait probably a minute in between matches anyways to play, so what's the big deal? Oh, man, yeah, you may think that's the case, but no, that's not the case at all. So let me walk you through it, because it's like I said, dystopian as it sounds. So PC Gamer reported on this, and they talked to Tom Warren from The Verge, who heard about the internal testings of this free-to-play model for Game Pass. They've been testing it for a while now, and so far, this is what they've come up with. So let me read you this, okay? As it says here, sources tell me the internal testing includes around 2 minutes of pre-roll ads before a game is available to stream for free through Xbox Cloud Gaming. Microsoft is also currently testing a limit of 1 hour for sessions with up to 5 hours free a month. These limits may well change when the service is officially launched. Yeah, not exactly what you want, is it? So you go
Or here's the other kicker. You're going to have to stream through the cloud service with ads, 2-minute pre-rolls, and then periodically it's going to pause your game and it's going to make you watch another 2 to 5 minutes worth of ads. And then, if that's not bad enough, you can only stream in 480p. You want the higher resolution? Start paying. That's right. I think that's what might end up happening. And they're going to limit you per day. They're going to give you a daily limit. I don't think they might so much stick with the weekly limit, but I think they'll definitely give you a daily limit.
Gotta wait 2 minutes for ads every single time that you log into Game Pass via the free version to play. You're then given 1 hour of free gameplay before your Game Pass free version times out and goes, sorry, you played the maximum amount that your account allows right now. And then you only get 5 hours a month to play. That is ridiculous. You won't be able to beat pretty much anything besides the smallest games then. And with Call of Duty, there's no way you would be able to keep up with battle passes and more via this free tier either. I don't even think Call of Duty would be on this free tier pass, to be honest, either. But either way, which means that if you play whatever games you want via this free tier, you're likely going to lose access to those games if it's not first party via Xbox's rotations of games on the service, just due to how limiting the free experience really is. Like Tom Warren said, it's not finalized yet, and yeah, probably not a good idea to have a cap on playtime, like at all, if you want that free tier to.
Doesn't matter what it's a good idea to do. It's a matter of what makes you money. It is only there to give you the illusion of something good, until you realize just how much you're being handicapped, and then eventually you might just give in and pay for the service. That is the point.
Work at all, because otherwise it's essentially pointless. Like, dude, I'm playing a video game and then you hit me with a 2-minute unskippable ad and then you stop my console from playing games because 1 hour has passed. Yeah, I'm gonna turn into the Punisher. But what's even worse is if somehow it can be that Xbox has now also paywalled the resolution.
You'll keep eating that shit. You will, until you give in
of their games that you can play on Game Pass behind higher tiers too. Like, imagine owning a 4K TV with HDR or a monitor with all the bells and whistles, and then Microsoft says, sorry, you can't use your own tech in your own home to its full potential with our games unless you pay us more first. Seriously, at this point, if you're using Game Pass, you're just really shooting yourself in the foot at this point. There is literally nothing beneficial here at all. At best, just wait for games to just go on sale. Play older games for cheaper, like many others do, if the price is a factor for you. Because anything is better than being fleeced with paywalls that stop your games from looking good, running well, or having your playtime pause because you can't pay them enough. You're just being fleeced, people. It's time to open your eyes to all of this, okay? Xbox is dead from hardware to any goodwill, and its Game Pass and Microsoft Infinite greed, it's all a mess, and it caused all of it. But you're all your own people, your own person, so I ask you before closing out this video, are you still going to get Game Pass? Have you canceled it? Are you walking away for good? And if so, what was your breaking point? Or are the people boycotting against Xbox just being babies about all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. I'll see you next time. Like 1 hour.
Do I think they're all crybabies? No. It's just genuinely people are pissed off they have to pay more for less, and it's subpar to begin with. But at the same time, most people that are doing the boycotting and the, canceling subscriptions kind of shit, I think it's a very, very small percentage. I don't really think it's as much as what people think it is, because I think that most people don't really care, especially people that make, people that make a good amount of money. They don't care. But I think it'd be interesting to see the numbers come out and for them to release just how many they lost because of it. I think that would be interesting to see. But until then, we're just here to speculate and guess. But no, I do think that Microsoft has gone down the shitter. Or let me rephrase that. I think that Xbox is very quickly going down the shitter. They're making one bad decision after another for the last several years. And I think their unwillingness to fire and completely dissolve 343 Studios and to let them continue to basically turn Halo into the laughing stock of Xbox, and then to not do anything with Gears of War, I think that's idiotic and baffling to me. That's the way I see it. And yes, I do think that Microsoft is putting all of their cards on the table when it comes to cloud gaming. They are going all in on that fucking bet. And at this point, they're so deep into it that there is no way they can back out now. They've invested too much into it, too much time, too much money, and they've set it up so much that there's no way that they can back out, even if they think it might fail. No way. I think they're going to dig heavily into the cloud gaming service, and I think that the handheld systems, so like your ROGs and your Steam Decks, those kind of things, I think that's where they're going to start pushing stuff. I think they're going to outsource hardware to these other companies, and they are going to basically rely on outsourced hardware to funnel cloud gaming. That's my theory, but we'll see. Feel free to let me know what you guys think in the comments. Be interested to see what you think. So, until next time. Peace.